Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this, a Friday, November 29th, 2024. I'm David Menzies, and my guest, well, let me tell you a little bit about my guest. You know, folks, today is National Electronic Greeting Day, so I'm going to greet my guest with an electronic greeting. Roll it. I put a lot of preparation into this, folks, and the lovely Olivia said, hold on, David. Tell me when you're ready. Live TV, isn't it great?
I feel so special. You had a greeting all prepared for me, and then it was a little bit of a flop there. Oh, I think we're ready to roll.
Thank you.
Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. Domo. Domo. Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. Domo. Domo. Domo.
There you go.
Thanks, David.
And you know what, folks? Talk about the law of unintended consequences. Did you see Tamara Ugolini bopping and gyrating? Oh, the way she moves, the way she grooves. In any event, she is the she-devil with a spatula. She is the Khaleesi of the greater Coburg area. She is Tamara Ugolini. Thanks for driving all the way down instead of mailing it in like you usually do, Tamara.
Yeah, you know, I debated this morning when I had to get up in the early wee hours of the morning to be able to wrangle all my children and get out the door. But here I am nonetheless. And it is always nice to be in person and join like I said on the way in, it's the energy. It's unmatched when you're doing things virtually, which I know we do so much in today's world now in this post-COVID weirdness. But
by the way, how many children are you up to?
Yeah, there's 5 total.
5? Wow.
5 total, yeah.
Talking to the genetic jackhammer of the Coburg area. How many? What are you capping the number at?
I think 5.
Really?
Yeah, we were supposed to actually be done.
A hockey team.
Well, we have a hockey line as it stands now. Plus, my husband's a goalie, so we have a line.
Me too.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about this, David. Did you forget?
I forgot.
Okay.
And the story of my life, I can be the backup.
There you go. And goalies often play for free, so we're all good.
Yeah.
But we were actually supposed to cap it at 4, and then we had our pro-life baby. So,
oh, how do you like that?
Yeah, you know, it's such a blessing. You never know, your heart has room for more. So, I'd love to actually one day be a foster parent. Funny little tidbit. I don't think my body could do it again, but I love babies and children, and if I could, I would have all the babies. But anyway, this live stream isn't about reproductive.
Oh, I don't know.
Reproduction.
There's a punchline there somewhere, folks. But
David's not going to go there. He's not going to take you there. So before we get into things, thank you everybody at home for joining our Rebel News live stream, where we don't always talk about my reproduction. So you can find us on a few different platforms. We're on Rumble, which we will try to direct traffic to because they're the free speech platform that has not demonetized us like our censorious friends, quote unquote, at YouTube. So if you're joining us on YouTube, please pivot over to Rumble, because on Rumble you can support our work, our journalism, and help keep our lights on here. We have several of them that need running by giving us a Rumble rant. So it's a fun little way for you to engage directly with us on the stream as we're live for the next hour roughly. And through your generosity and support with a $5 donation, we will read your comment or your rant on air. And it's a great way, again, to give us a little tip or a trick or just have your opinion expressed while we're here. We also have some really fun new designs to share with you at the Rebel News store. And just in time for Christmas, there's a bunch of ugly Christmas sweater designs, including one that I'm patiently waiting for in the mail, which is all I want for Christmas is a new prime minister. We'll get into that a little bit later because I thought maybe that would happen late last night in the House of Commons, and spoiler alert, it didn't. But anyway, we have mugs, t-shirts, shirts, and then, as I mentioned, ugly Christmas sweater designs as well. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off of your total order by using coupon code RebelXmas. So head on over to rebelnewsstore.com, use coupon code RebelXmas for 15% off of your order, and you can sport your favorite swag at your Christmas dinner or maybe gift it to some triggered lefties in your family this holiday season.
Wow, it's our very own Black Friday. How do you like that?
There you
and
go.
By the way, Tamara, last time you were here, you left this behind. Speaking of censorious thugs, you know, folks, when you see that abrupt jump cut in my videos, that's the reason.
Let me see. They don't call me Tamara Scissorhands for nothing.
Oh no, I'm emboldening.
These are actually
her.
nice little scissors. I may take those home with me.
Oh, jeez. Now, speaking
All
of censors and censorious behavior, we have a promo to run. It's about the Toronto Police Service. For some bizarre reason, I have theories why they're acting this way, why they're trying to shut down the practice of independent journalism and getting harsh on peaceful counter demonstrators to the pro-Hamas reprobates. I believe we have a message from our boss, Ezra Levant, Canada's #1 freedom fighter, and how he was handled last Sunday. We're going to take a stance this Sunday. Check it out, folks.
You just stand over here, okay?
I don't have to. Canada is my free speech zone, sir.
Sir, I understand that, okay?
But you're violating
your
my
presence
charter
in that
rights.
group is inciting the potential for
I
violence.
haven't incited anything. They have.
Your presence alone.
It seems like Hamas thugs rule the streets and police let them. Let's take back our streets. Go to takebackourstreets.com to learn more. And I'll see you on Sunday at 9 a.m. in Toronto at Bathurst and Shepherd.
Okay?
I know you want me to stand here, but you're not
Here
the
we go.
law.
Well, I am the law.
No, you're not the law,
Yeah,
sir.
so-
You're a
There.
servant of the law.
There
You
you
are
go.
not the law.
So
Tamara, two things. One is when Ezra rightfully says Canada is my free speech zone. Sergeant Stadenko there says, I understand that. No, clearly you don't, because you end up putting him in cuffs and hauling him away. And that phrase, I am the law, and Ezra rightly corrects the record, you are a servant of the law. What in blue hell, Tamara? Who does this guy think he is? Judge Dredd?
Yeah.
The comic book character? What are your thoughts?
The police are just so emboldened, and then of course on the other side, on the Hamas side, you see them being also emboldened by the actions of the police. This is just topsy-turvy, upside down world that we're seeing unfold on the streets of Canada. And I mean, it's been that way for years now, but it's like this is just the groundswell is reaching such a peak now. And I think that this solidarity event happening this Sunday will be really to reclaim, as we say in the URL, take back our streets, reclaim these streets, because the appropriation, or what would you call it, the vigil they were playing to Hamas last week or last weekend, absolutely disturbing to see that in front of a group of peaceful demonstrating Jewish in the Jewish community, and how absolutely offensive for them to be faced with that in front of them after assembling on that corner peaceably for the better part of a year until these disruptors come in and try to take it over.
100%. And what Tamara Ugolini is referring to, folks, that guy sitting in that bloodied couch, he was, I don't know, engaged in cosplay. That was Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind of the October 7th, 2023 massacre in southern Israel, until the IDF several weeks ago dispatched him to the great hereafter. By the way, I don't know what the downside is. I don't know why they want to have a vigil, why they're weeping over Sinwar, because according to the rules, Tamara, he gets his 72 voluptuous black-eyed virgins, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, if I thought that was true, I'm joining Team Terror, okay? But anyway, the other thing is take back the streets. You know what the sad thing about that is, folks? It's not only taking back the streets from the pro-terrorist people, it's taking back the streets from law enforcement who are aiding and emboldening, just as Tamara Ugolini said, the thuggery. Like, why wouldn't they continue to push the envelope? Tamara, I'll say this. I think Sinwar was just when you said, how low can they go? They pull that stunt. They'll be doing it again this week. I think it's only a matter of time, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, because they're trying to get a reaction by the peaceful pro-Israel counter demonstrators. They want nothing more than a fight to maintain this Palestinian victimhood rubbish. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these weeks at Bathurst and Shepherd, one of these reprobates shows up dressed as Adolf Hitler.
Well, they had the swastikas out already.
Yep.
I mean, we're not far off. But I think this leads into the bigger problem, which is what's happening at our border and our porous immigration system in this country. There was a post, I think just a couple days ago, by an anonymous X account who ousted one of those protesters as being a Syrian refugee that came into our country in 2015 and now is taking to the streets to promote this disorder and chaos. And just yesterday, we have Premier Smith announcing that she's concerned by Canada's illegal migrant problem that is only going to get worse, might I add, under the Trump administration in January when he's inaugurated, because he's promised to deport all of the illegal immigrants, illegal aliens that are in the United States, which often have criminal records and a pattern of criminality from their country of origin. And so where are they naturally going to go? Mexico or Canada? And, land of the free, the great white north, I think we're in for it in the next month or two.
Tamara, I beg to differ with you on one point there, because if you are going to deport someone, assuming I think you're talking about the ones that get away where they're going to flee to, but in the deportation procedure, it'll be to their country of origin. And I suspect by the time a lot of these people try to flee, I mean, talk about an unbelievable communication strategy going back to Monday when Donald Trump announced on his Truth Social that if Mexico and Canada don't get their borders in order, you're looking at a 25% tariff.
Yep.
What did we see? Within 12 hours, the president of Mexico said, the caravans, they aren't going to make it to the border anymore. Imagine that. And here, what did we have at the speed of light as opposed to the speed of bureaucracy? Blackface and Fraulein Freeland meeting with all the premiers to get our strategy in order. I mean, have you ever seen government move so fast? So I think if we do, and Daniel Smith, Doug Ford, they've already talked about hiring extra agents. So maybe, just maybe, I know it's a hell of a long border, but when those illegal aliens flee from the U.S. under threat of deportation, maybe they're going to hit a brick wall when they try to get into our country. So I think this was an outstanding victory for Donald Trump. And people say, Manzoid, are you crazy? Do you know what that's going to do to our economy? Do you know that we can't survive if we get into a tariff war with the U.S.? 100%. I think, though, those 25% tariffs, at least for Canada, will not come to fruition as long as Donald Trump sees that we're doing something.
And none other than female Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, has already pledged to do something about it. Here she has an exclusive interview with our boss, Ezra Levant, on the topic. Let's show this quick clip.
Let me start by saying I believe Donald Trump when he says what he says about what his concerns are, what the trade irritants are. He's really concerned about China using Canada or Mexico as a conduit to bring cheap goods into the United States. He's concerned about the fact that we haven't met our 2% NATO commitment to support national defense. And more recently, he's concerned about the cross-border problem of not only illegal migrants, but also fentanyl. And these are shared concerns. We have those concerns as well. I've been raising them. Other premiers have been raising them. And so it seems to me that the smartest move would be to say, yes, we agree we've got to address this issue and to start putting some meaningful resources on the border to make that happen. And what we have said is we're happy to work with our provincial counterparts and our federal counterparts to make that happen. We've got sheriffs that we can deploy. We've been using drone technology to fight fires up in northern Alberta mostly. We can use drone technology as well to be able to monitor that border. And we're prepared to deploy the resources that we need to give the Americans and to give our own people some comfort that we are addressing this issue in a serious way.
And, seriously, Tamara, how about this for a make work project? A wall. I'm all about walls and fences, and we know the left loves it when it comes to their own personal residences. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi's gated residence. Last time I was at the White House on Election Day, you couldn't even see the White House anymore. There's two walls in front of it. So while the Biden-Harris administration, they weren't keen on border security when it comes to their security, oh boy, walls work, as do fences. fences and armed guards. So, yeah, I am hopeful that we're going to get serious about this. And one indicator, Tamara, the difference between 2024 and 2016 is right now you have Justin Trudeau arranging a meeting with all the premiers, whereas 8 years ago, what did he do? Sent out that infamous tweet, hashtag welcome to Canada. Yeah, come, all you illegal aliens, come on in. I didn't see any of that chatter from the Prime Minister this time around.
Open arms. And well, now the pushback is so great, and the collapse of all of our social systems is so great, it cannot be ignored. And sadly, the fact that those open, porous borders have been in place for almost 9 years, you're seeing the fallout and destruction of those ridiculous radical policies. And one thing here that Smith touches on is the fentanyl that's coming across our borders from China. There's this exclusive investigation by the Bureau, which found the fentanyl case against China, Canada, and Mexico. And they say that Canada is being increasingly exploited by China for fentanyl production and export, with over 350 gang networks operating, according to Canadian Security Intelligence reports. And that is staggering, astonishing numbers, especially as you coincide that investigation and those numbers with what's happening on our streets in various towns and cities all across the country, whether it be Vancouver, Toronto, or even small towns like the one that I'm originally from in Cobourg, Ontario, where you see people in this zombie-like state, just completely zoned out. The crime, the violence, the chaos, the disorder, as I've already mentioned, that's unfolding, the safety concerns, especially for children and the elderly when this is ensuing in their neighborhoods, and the drugs, the trafficking. I mean, really, it's a mess, especially for the people who live in the direct vicinity of these drug houses or these gang activities or these supposed safe supply and harm reduction sites. It is actual chaos, and people are no longer feeling safe in their own homes. I remember Canada when I was a kid, and even up until a few years ago, you didn't have to lock your doors. There just wasn't the crime or the violence that we're seeing on the streets now. And it's really sad because it's due to these radical policies, and it can be avoided. And I'm hoping that it can be reined back in before it's too late.
You know, Tamara, you make an excellent point about your hometown of Cobourg. The population is what, under 10,000?
No, it's about 25,000 now, but it's grown a lot in the last few years.
But a small town, nevertheless. And you never saw this in small town. You never even saw it in Toronto. I mean, I think about the famous Peter Ustinov quote in 1987, Toronto is New York as run by the Swiss. Those days are long gone. I was down on Queen Street last night, Queen West, and I came across it looked like either a place of worship or a place of worship repurposed as a theater for live arts. And there was an entire homeless encampment around it, just right there off of the sidewalk. And, you know, to see that in Cobourg, I mean, I used to always love coming to Cobourg, typically in the summertime for the annual sandcastle competition. And you get unbelievable artwork there. How perversely ironic, it's not sandcastles on the beach, but actually tents on the beach with, you know, people in it. And some of these poor folks, let's face it, there's the criminal element, but there are those who are addicted. Yeah. There are those with mental issues. I'm not trying to be pejorative, but it is like zombie land, isn't it? It is people walking around without a purpose. And that's another thing Danielle Smith has right in her province. No more safe injection sites. They get you into a clean and sober facility. I'd like to see that take root with Premier Ford here.
Yeah, it's not just tents on the beach. It's actually needles and drug paraphernalia. And it gets, you know, ground down under the sand, and then your kids are playing in the beach, they're digging up, they're building sandcastles, and for children to stumble upon this paraphernalia, which some of it comes with great risk if you're dealing with a used needle, it's really devastating for law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. who live amongst this chaos.
And Tamara, one last thing too on the border. You're quite right about fentanyl and how that is literally destroying lives and killing people and wrecking families. But of course, the northern border is nothing like the sieve that exists between the U.S. and Mexico in the south. But let it be known that when it comes to illegal aliens, we account for almost 10% of the number. And that's a big number. Mm-hmm. So Donald Trump is absolutely right to do a little saber rattling that if you aren't going to beef up border security, you're going to pay a price.
Yeah, we'll see what Trudeau's reaction. Well, maybe we'll talk about his lackluster, weak, unsurprising reaction in a minute. But we have a super chat already from Ryerson Gary, who gives $5. Thank you very much. On Wednesday, the Toronto Star had a story written as a scoop about the Amish and Arrive scam. No mention about Rebel and Democracy Fund being on it for weeks. We're literally crowdfunding. Let's pull that story up here. The lefties at the Toronto Star.
Holy ambush, because I haven't read the story yet, but I do know, as a matter of fact, that lawyer Mark Joseph of the Democracy Fund was interviewed for that story as well. He should be, because he's the point person on that. And just to show you the paranoia, and I would say it's rightful paranoia, Mark phoned me the day before his interview and said, I'm just worried if that Toronto Star reporter is going to ambush me. And I said, just stick to your knitting. If she brings up all kinds of non sequiturs, say, look, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. All I know is this. I thought this interview was about the Amish. I talked to him post-interview. He said it went very well.
You know, and they do source him in here, but they do not at all mention his affiliations as the head. Is he the head lawyer?
What kind of journalism is that? Fund? It's just this guy called Mark Joseph of no fixed address. Yeah, we saw him on King Street going through rubbish bins. Are you kidding me? They don't give his title?
No.
Because Lord forbid they don't want to give any credit to the Democracy Fund and or Rebel News. I mean, that is outrageous.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm a reader, Tamara Ugolini, and I don't know anything about this issue, and they say, according to Mark Joseph, well, I go, who in blue hell is Mark Joseph, right? You know, but you put a title next to him. Oh, okay. There's some gravitas there.
He's their head litigator. So anyway, the lefties at the Toronto Star, how an Ontario Amish community became saddled with COVID fines. And, you know, again, we have, what's the URL, David, that we are using to crowdfund their legal defense?
Oh, you got me on the spot here. I'm sure.
Help the Amish. There it is. Help the Amish, I believe, .com or .ca. And so
hey, that counts, you know.
It does, but sometimes it redirects. So if one won't work, try the other. So through our crowdfunding initiative, we are helping to fund the Democracy Fund's litigation for the Amish who don't use technology. I mean, you've been on the story beat for weeks, as they said in the super chat.
Yeah, folks, if you're not familiar with the story, the Amish during COVID were going across the border. There's a large Amish community in Pennsylvania, for example. And when they got back, they were getting $6,000 fines, every man, woman, and child, because they didn't have the Arrive Cam app. Now, why would that be? Oh, yeah, that's right. The Amish don't have cell phones. They don't even have landlines. They don't use electricity. And then they amassed fines and interest and penalties that went into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the only way they found out, folks, is when an Amish farmer went to his bank, and then others in the community did likewise, and they were putting up their property as collateral for a loan because they need supplies as farmers. And the banker would say, I'm terribly sorry to say this, Mr. Jones, but we can't give you a loan. There is a lien on your property. A lien by whom? Oh, by the federal government of Canada. Can you imagine Blackface and company going on a jihad against these people, Tamara, that mean no harm to anyone? The Amish don't wear trouble on their shirt. They couldn't comply. I'll tell you where these fines should be going. I'll tell you where this jihad should be centered. It's on those SOBs that got that contract, and somehow an $85,000 app ballooned into millions and millions of grift expenditures. This is shameful. And even though up until now the mainstream media wasn't interested, we're interested, as is our arm's length charitable foundation, the Democracy Fund. They'll deal with the court of law. We'll deal with the court of public opinion.
Absolutely. What a sad disgrace and excuse of some journalism there from the Toronto Star. But again, unsurprising. So let's go to a quick ad break. We'll read from the Positive Company first, and then we'll go to a Rebel News ad, and we'll come back for more thereafter. Now, if you have a dog, we've all been there. Your pup goes from full of energy to sick and miserable in an instant and at the worst of times. Then we're calling vets in the middle of the night or on weekends, trying to find a clinic that will take us in. It's a terrible way to manage your dog's health, not to mention your stress levels and your monthly budget. That's why people are getting the Pet Emergency Kit by Positive. It contains critical medications and supplies that can not only keep you out of the veterinary clinic and office, but may even save your dog's life. Their kits contain critical medications like activated charcoal, septic powder, and more. It might save your dog's life. Head over to positive.com and use code STUDIO to get 15% off your Pet Emergency Kit. There you have it.
Do you have a pet, Tamara Ugolini, or is 5 kids enough for you?
Yeah, they're trying to get a dog out of me for Christmas. But no, right now we have 2 cats, which, we're against our better judgment, but we love them nonetheless. We'll roll a quick ad.
What if governments are trying to reinvent the wheel when the greatest teacher of all times has already laid out the perfect blueprint for a constitution for a kingdom of love, faith, and freedom? Introducing the Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport. This special edition Freedom Passport captures the foundational truths of love, ethics, and freedom for all. It's a powerful reminder of Jesus' call to love one another and to be part of something bigger that you can carry with you every day. Join the movement, share the truth, and spread the love with your family and friends. Get your Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport at freedompassport.ca. And right now, all orders in North America come with free shipping and a free downloadable song with every purchase.
All right. Well, many Canadians don't know that this happened last night because it hasn't been widely reported on, but there was the third non-confidence vote in the House of Commons that went late last night.
How'd it go?
Third one.
Is the government falling?
I think 3 months.
Yes.
No, thanks to the fringe minority Liberal NDP coalition. Once again, Jagmeet Singh has propped up the Liberals and their far left radical, as I mentioned, fringe coalition party. That's what I like to call them. So no, the non-confidence vote did not go through. We have a post here from MP Bob Zimmerman, who took to X right away thereafter to let Canadians know what had happened.
Hey everybody, it's Member of Parliament Bob Zimmer in the House of Commons tonight. We just had our vote of non-confidence. The vote went 151 to 176, which means we didn't win that vote. Because the NDP and Jagmeet Singh still keep propping up Justin Trudeau and the corrupt NDP Liberal government, I can tell you we're not going to stop fighting until we get a carbon tax election. Stay tuned.
But Tamara, I don't understand. Me being a bear of very little brain, I always see Mr. Singh at pressers calling out Justin Trudeau and saying how despicable his policies are and that this is the last straw. And remember this, I've torn up the supply agreement. Actually, he didn't actually do that. That would have been effective. We have to trust him. Would you trust Jagmeet Singh? So why, oh why, Tamara Ugolini, does he say all these mean and rotten and nasty, cruel things about the Prime Minister and the Liberal Party of Canada, and then in the House, sellout Singh props him up? Why?
Yeah. Textbook sellout Singh. There it is. He typical political speak where you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. So he says on one hand that Canadians have lost faith in the Prime Minister and we're ripping up our supply contract agreement. And on the other hand, he props them up with, that's a pretty close vote. If at least a few of the NDP had have crossed the floor, there would be a non-confidence vote and an election would have been called. But yeah, I wrote it up this morning. Jagmeet Singh's sellout vote betrays Canadians, because it's not just the carbon tax election that is on being hinged on here. I mean, Canadians are reeling from, as we've already been discussing on this stream, the fallout of our porous borders, unchecked immigration without assimilation, the chaos and disorder on Canadian streets, whether it be radicals out protesting or the drugs, the cost of living crisis, inflation, the housing crisis. I mean, the list literally just goes on and on and on. And then here we have these two far left radical groups who have created this undemocratic coalition in our House of Commons and are now acting out of the best interest of Canadians to prop themselves and each other up. It's just absolute chaos and madness what's happening in Parliament, and it's a joke. If anybody watches the question period or any of these committees, it's astonishing how the government conducts itself with just zero accountability and no expedience to actually affect or make change to Canada for the better.
So, Tamara Galini, here is the question for you. Why is he sellout Singh? Why does Jagmeet decry the Prime Minister and this government at pressers, but in the House always props them up? It's not the P word, is it?
Right. Yeah.
Pension. What is it, February or March? He's got to make it.
Ooh, I don't remember.
It's one of those months. I'll have to double check. But you're not going to see this government fall until after that time, because Jagmeet Singh, that'll be his 6-year mark. And he, listen, folks, as much as he preaches about climate change, the maintenance costs on a BMW M3, 500 horsepower, that's a lot of money. Those Armani suits, the Rolex watch. You don't expect him to be driving for Uber Eats, do you? No. He needs that pension that's going to be worth more than $2 million over the course of Jagmeet Singh's life. It is the perfect nickname for him, isn't it, Tamara, that Pierre Poilievre gave him? Sellout Singh.
Yeah.
He is selling out his country for his pension,
which he will be qualified for in October of 2025. So right at the same time that the federal election will take place. And remember that
Are you sure about that? Because I thought there was something earlier for him, but we'll double check this.
Yeah, and they're also pushing the Liberals and the NDP to push back the election by 1 week in order to qualify dozens more MPs
because
for
it's one
pensions.
day short right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're doing it under the guise of I think it's Dollywall or Diwali. Thinking of our writer, Diwali. But that completely ignores the option for early voting. And so the whole thing doesn't make any sense. It's been in committee the last few weeks.
And you know what else, Tamara Galini? You described those two parties as far left. For me, they're indistinguishable. And it's very odd because earlier this week, I was out in Oakville. We were talking about the Ford plant. It will come back to life by 2026. And I was interviewing Dan McTague, who for 18 years was a Liberal member of Parliament here in Ontario. And don't hold that against him, folks, because if Dan, I'll tell you how far the Liberals have moved in terms of left-wing progressivism. And it's the fact that if Dan McTague was in politics today, he'd be running as a Conservative. This was your father's Liberal. And you know what? Dan McTague openly and publicly denounces the Justin Trudeau Liberals, as does Steve Ledrew, who for many years was the national president of the Liberal Party of Canada. I think this bodes well, Tamara, because if lifelong Liberals are saying this cat has got to go, the sooner the better, wow, I'm sniffing landslide whenever our next election is.
Yeah, and you were right, David. We have jagmeetspayday.com, where we actually have a countdown to when Jagmeet Singh will qualify for his pension. And so I stand corrected here. It's apparently on February 25th, 2025. So according to our jagmeetspayday.com countdown, there is 87 days, 10 hours, and 23 minutes. And maybe then we will get a vote of non-confidence. And that will be really telling, won't it?
Yeah, and that's another reason he's a sellout. He probably has members in his own party that stand to have that payday only if the election is extended in October. But you know what? When you're Jugmeat saying, I'm okay, Jack, I'm going to be doing just fine. Wish I could do better. See ya. Get my BMW.
Meanwhile, we have Liberal MP, Minister of Finance, and Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland.
Oh, no.
Who just Twitchy, they call her Twitchy Freeland, because she can't seem to just sit still. There's always something going on with her weird facial
What did you
expressions.
call her?
Twitchy Freeland.
I thought it was the B word. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I mean, no. So she, if in case you missed it earlier this week, was such bizarre verbiage. But of course, we have she session, and now Chrystia Freeland is claiming that we are in a vibe session because Canadians just aren't really feeling it. Don't take it from me. Listen, this is her words.
A lot of economists have been talking about the vibe-cession and the fact that Canadians just aren't feeling good and that is having real economic consequences. And the Canadian economists making that point are right.
They're right, yeah.
You know, I bet you even Kamala Harris is twinging at that answer. A vibe? I mean, like, as in what? Good vibrations?
Bad vibes, good vibes. I guess canceling our Disney Plus didn't really do it for us. Something that Chrystia Freeland recommended we do.
That. No way. By the way, I got a very quick story about Good Vibrations by Brian Wilson, considered the #1 pop song in the world by some. And the genesis was, folks, is that he was getting into a vicious argument in the Wilson family household about something with his brother, and the dog slinked away. And at one point, after he was done yelling at his brother, he said to his mom, "Where the hell's the dog?" And she said to him, "Oh, don't you know? They have an additional sense. They can pick up bad vibrations." And he had an epiphany. He can't write a song about bad vibrations, but he'll write a song about good vibrations. There you go. Hypothetical question, Tamara Ugolini. If that incident never happened, does Brian Wilson still go on to write the #1 pop song of all time?
If not, he would be now.
Yeah, he gets inspiration from Fraulein Freeland.
Yeah, he can make a whole song about Twitchy McTwitcherson and her vibe session. I guess Canadians just aren't feeling good, and that translates over to us not being able to afford to spend money in our economy. I mean, for our deputy minister, prime minister, and minister of finance to be using these kindergarten made up words, it's just such a bizarre thing to get up in front of Canadians and say, Canadians, they're just not feeling good right now. And without any introspection into how this government has played a role in Canadians not feeling good right now. I mean, we're heading into the Christmas season. This should be the jolliest, happiest, giving without wanting in return season to be in. And yet we have our finance minister going up in front of Canadians, and she kept it together for that 17 seconds. I mean, I didn't see any of her weird, outlandish twitches or weird facial expressions that she seems to do when she's up there being asked questions. But making up these words, remember when Trudeau said we're heading for a she session or something along those lines? I don't know if we have that clip of when he coined that one. But now for the Minister of Finance to come out and say we're in a vibe session. I just want to see a change in government so we can get back to some good vibes, because whatever vibes are coming from Chrystia Freeland, who's twitching out all the time, they're obviously just not good.
Tamara, you go, why is she so condescending whenever she's speaking? I almost think that she's going to hold up that magic mirror. Remember the host of Romper Room, and as though she's talking to nursery school students. That's what I feel like. I don't feel like she's treating us as adults, and she's a disaster. I'm sorry to say.
Well, anyone who's been watching her pressers or any of the clips that we post on X or embed in our articles, her mannerisms are so bizarre. So maybe we're just in a bizarre session where our government is just completely out to lunch and on who knows what because they can't seem to keep it together.
And my favorite Freeland story, because some viewers thought we were being cheeky or mean to her, but our ex-colleague, Kian Bexley, he came across her, I think it was in an Edmonton Hilton hotel, and went over to scrum her, and she was wearing one of her trademark short skirts. Anyways, when she got up, we had to, in the editing process, put a blue dot. Think of the Sharon Stone scene in Basic Instinct. You know what I'm saying? But we really had to do that because it wasn't us making a joke. Oh, we have a family rated channel here, right? And so do you think with all her wealth and influence, maybe she can, I don't know, hire a personal shopper to get clothes that fit? Just saying.
Yeah, just saying. And also just buy the next size up. What about when she was clipping her toenails in the House of Commons? I mean, my goodness, are these really the people that are elected to represent us?
Yeah, you're in the House of Commons, not on a Greyhound bus to Saskatoon. I mean, give me a break. Who thinks that's appropriate?
Someone in the comments here is writing meth vibes. Yeah, I feel that. Anyway, Trudeau lost control. So we have this next video here of the leader of the opposition. Oh, wait, hold on. We have a photo of Chrystia Freeland picking her toenails in the House of Commons. And her hair's just up in a bun with one of those ponytails, and just the lack of professionalism is just astounding by these people.
And, but what is he looking at? That's what I want. Right. He looks very invested.
There's some curiosity happening in that facial expression. Is it the toenails, or we'll just not go there?
But he was riveted, right? Yeah. She's causing a distraction, folks, in the House of Commons.
Oh my goodness. At least while the cameras are on, have some decency. Leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, is calling out Trudeau because for losing control. So let's run this quick clip.
Now we face new threats to our brittle and weak economy. The reality is we have a weakened economy, a weakened border, a weakened military, and a severely weakened prime minister. He's desperate. He's lost control, but he's trying to hold on to power. And so he's come up with a irresponsible and inflationist $6 billion tax trick that he will take away right before raising the carbon tax on heat, housing, groceries, and gas in just a few months. Common sense conservatives will vote against this irresponsible, inflationist temporary 2-month tax trick, and instead push our plan to axe the carbon tax and axe the sales tax on new homes for everyone, for good. And I would add that now is the worst possible time to be blowing $6 billion trying to save Justin Trudeau's political skin, especially with the threats coming from the United States, with our border in chaos, our economy collapsing, and everything broken. We need real, responsible leadership from a strong, smart prime minister who has the brains and backbone to put Canada first.
And you know what, Tamara Galini, I just want to say there's a lot of blowback on the left when we criticize this, as Pierre Poilievre called it, a temporary tax trick. Oh, I thought you conservatives are all about lower taxes. Yeah, that is the explanation. Not a 2-month temporary tax trick, but a permanent axing of the carbon tax and of the sales tax on new homes. That's what we want. We want substance, not gimmicks.
Well, and that's in reference to the $250 check that the Liberals are supposed to be rolling out to only working Canadians, I think this month, in December. And it's more inflationary money. This is just money printing, trying to buy votes and suppress the real concerns of Canadians. It reminds me of what they did during the lockdown hysteria when they were giving everyone, I think it was at like $1,000 bi-weekly, and all you had to do was call in with your SIN number and you would be sent a Swift check in the mail for $1,000. No background, no checks, no balances, nothing. Just here it is, your free $1,000. And I think they did that for 2.5 months, 3 months. I didn't claim it. I was really nervous to see that happening. So I don't know how all the logistics and ins and outs of it, but I had friends and other people who even, some of the drug addicted individuals, all they had to do was find a cell phone, have their SIN number and a place to have their check mailed. And there they had, their $1,000 biweekly check from the government. This to me is similar to that.
But Tamara, if I may, there's another complication with this temporary tax trick. And just today, I heard Dan Kelly, the president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, and businesses have, as of today, 15 days to get their stuff in order because it takes effect December 14th. And
that's the exemption, the GST exemption.
The GST exemption.
On some goods, right?
This is the problem.
Yeah.
Which goods? And this is going to be during the Christmas shopping rush. And you can imagine the young clerk behind the how many times are they going to say, excuse me, Madge, are rubber duckies tax exempt or not? And what he said is just to get the line moving, just to avoid arguments with your customers. They'll just say, what the heck? I'm not going to, press the tax button. And then guess what, folks? 6 months down the road in 2025, that business owner gets an invoice from the Canadian Revenue Agency. You owe this amount of taxes that were not collected, not because the business was running a scam, but because of all the confusion and the time constraints. Every time this government, Tamara Ugolini, tries to help, tries to do something proactive, they are the anti-King Midas. It just turns to you-know-what. Yep. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, then not to mention the point of sale systems, the POS systems in these businesses that automate the taxes on purchases. They are not prepared to deal with the individual differences now in their systems on what is exempt, what isn't, how much, how little. I think there was ridiculous stipulations on things like children's shoes if they were under 22 centimeters in length or something. Absolutely absurd. How is anyone supposed to keep up with that? It is just ridiculous. And again, this will be implemented for a mere 2 months. And then 2 months later, the carbon tax will be quadrupled and will be charged more tax on every single item that we purchase until there's a change in government, which the leader of the opposition, the Conservatives, have promised that they will axe that tax. So this is all just smoke and mirrors, trying to buy votes, trying to appease people during the Christmas holiday season. And small businesses are already saying this is absolute chaos and it's not worth the hassle.
Oh, but Tamara Ugolini, you poor dear, you haven't done the math. According to Blackface, you're getting more money in your pocket with those carbon tax rebates. And if anyone believes that nugget, I've got oceanfront property for sale in Regina, okay? No, you're absolutely right. The pain of these ever cascading carbon taxes is yet to be felt.
Yeah.
And this, 2-month-long tax trick, as Mr. Poilievre rightfully calls it, it ain't going to help us. People, I don't think, are not even going to notice it, even in the Christmas gift buying season. And Tamara, I got to say, I really think, unlike the U.S., when most pollsters had it so wrong with the presidential election, all the polls in Canada are indicating a Pierre Poilievre landslide, a majority government. I believe those polls, and it's only a matter of time, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it might be after Jagmeet's payday. Ryerson Gary has a Rumble rant for us, $5. Again, thank you. David Thompson is luckier than us mere mortals. He could and did fire Freeland when he found out she pissed away many millions of his money.
Yeah, true enough, because that's referring to the journalistic division that she was the manager of. What did they lose? Something like, was it 300 million? Don't quote me on that, folks, but it was massive. Yeah, you know what? That's who I want as finance minister and deputy PM. Someone that was a complete failure in business. But with the Trudeau Liberals, folks, you fail and you go upwards, not downwards.
Now we're going to read a quick script from Preserve Gold, and then we'll go to another ad break. We'll come back to another quick video and commentary. From Preserve Gold, they say, we live in unpredictable times with digital currencies on the rise, a 35 trillion national debt, and inflation still at a 40-year high. Tesla billionaire Elon Musk has warned that the US dollar is heading for destruction and that these factors could bankrupt the US. Financial experts are urging Americans to prepare right now. That's why you should strongly consider physical gold and silver to help protect your accounts like IRAs and 401ks. Preserve Gold is giving away a free precious metals guide that contains essential information on how to help protect your accounts. Learn how you can put physical gold and silver into an IRA or 401k and even purchase precious metals for delivery directly to your home. All you need to do is text the word RUMBLE to 50505. Preserve Gold has hundreds of 5-star reviews and millions of dollars in trusted transactions with satisfied clients. In addition to their free guide, you can also get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. Just text RUMBLE to 50505 to receive this exclusive offer.
You know something, Mary Galini? I am going to ask Lady Menzoid. That's what I want for Christmas: gold.
Some gold and silver.
If for no other reason than the fact that I'm a huge Razor Ramon fan from the WWE back in the day. And remember his routine? He'd go to the ring, he'd take off his championship belt, and he would hand it to the kid, the ring attendant. And he always had the following phrase: something happened to the gold, something going to happen to you, Chico. And then he'd take his toothpick and throw it in the kid's face. So just to reenact the Razor Ramon fantasy and actually make some money for a change, I think gold is the gift to last.
Yeah, and I think they need to bring some of these ads and offers into the Canadian market as well. So as people express interest and show interest from Canada, my hope is that we'll see some of these initiatives come over to the north side as well. Let's go to a quick ad break. We'll come back for more.
I'm in Brazil, so I'm using a VPN to get on the internet. What's a VPN? It stands for a virtual private network, and you get around these government firewalls. Suddenly, the president of Brazil banned his whole country from going on Twitter. It was a political censorship news. I've downloaded the VPN from a company called PIA VPN. We've teamed up with them at Rebel, and it's a great deal. I got on the internet really quickly, safely, and even I'm a bit of a technophobe. I managed to figure it out with 2 clicks. And here's the great news. If you go to piavpn.com/Rebel News, not only do you get a big discount, but they pay us a bit of a commission too. Everyone's a winner. Your freedom, your VPN, and a little bit of cash coming to support Rebel News. I'm using it myself to get around the censors in Brazil. You can use it too. That's piavpn.com/Rebel News.
All right, we touched on it a little bit, so I'd like to just show this quick clip of Trudeau reacting to the challenges of the incoming president-elect Donald Trump's administration. Let's chat about that.
One of the things that is really important to understand is that Donald Trump, when he makes statements like that, he plans on carrying them out. There's no question about it. Our responsibility is to point out that in this way, he would be actually not just harming Canadians who work so well with the United States, he'd actually be raising prices for American citizens as well, and hurting American industry and businesses. But there are ways for us to work together to demonstrate, as we did years before, that we can do things together. We can create opportunities and growth and good jobs on both sides of the border by being the partners and allies we've been for decades. What it requires is, first of all, a Team Canada approach, which we put together last time, where we started putting together the Team Canada approach earlier this year, where premiers, where labor leaders, where business leaders all come together to demonstrate that things go best for the United States when things go well at the Canada-US border and things go well working together. So we're going to work together to meet some of the concerns and respond to some of the issues. But ultimately, it is through lots of constructive, real conversations with President Trump that I'm going to have that will keep us moving forward on the right track for all Canadians.
You know, I'm so sorry, Tamara Ugolini. I didn't catch any of that. I was obsessed with the gal in the pink top who was rolling her eyes and making faces and shaking her head like this as though she had an imaginary invisible friend behind. What? Listen, hey, Trudeau, if you're going to pick stooges for your photo op, don't get upstaged by somebody doing a little pantomime there. And the only other thing I can say, Tamara, given his attire, in other words, or lack of attire, the jacket is off. The tie is loosened. The shirt sleeves are rolled up. That meant this was most likely a union blue collar kind of get together. Because you see, Justin Trudeau is one of the guys and gals out there, using a toolbox, even though I'm not sure which side, he's probably not sure which side of the hammer you use to pound the nail in. I mean, it's just, he's still in part-time drama teacher mode, isn't he?
Well, I don't think it's caught, but he's tried to get their slogan to catch, which is we're rolling up our sleeves and we're getting to work and we're getting our work done. And it's just sad.
Like Rosie the Riveter.
To see. Yeah. Well, and that's Jenna Suds behind him. She's the Minister of Families, Children, and Social Development. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Maybe not anymore.
So it looks almost like they're at a school. The setting there looked like they maybe were with educational assistants or the QP union members. I'm not sure. But it would make sense.
But did that catch your eye too?
Yeah. Well, it's adjacent to Twitchy Freeland.
Exactly.
The way, the mannerisms and the inability to stay still, to be focused, to seem like you're mentally clear and clear-headed. I'm not sure if these people are just medicated or what's going on. I don't want to make any suspicions there, but it is suspect body language for sure. Anybody who studies body language, I'd love to hear from you, actually, what you make of Twitchy Freeland or some of these ministers in the background and the faces they make and the way that they conduct themselves. It would be interesting to know. One thing that we haven't touched on that we'll just close off on is the bail reform that we've seen under the Justin Trudeau Liberals, which has also contributed to the rise in crime, chaos, disorder, destruction on the streets. And this story here that came out just this morning is indicative of that. So a suspect in a shocking shooting rampage in the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, was out on bail and had violent history. Troy Dennis Ledrew was 29, reportedly out on bail for a violent robbery while he terrorized people with a gun across the Greater Toronto Area earlier this week. He was accused of shooting vehicles on Highway 401 in Mississauga and later attempting to carjack multiple people at gunpoint in downtown Toronto. And he has a lengthy criminal past, no fixed address, had previously faced charges for robbery, breach of probation, and fraud. His multi-day violent crime spree came to an end on Wednesday evening after he was arrested near Lakeshore Boulevard East and Carlaw Avenue in downtown Toronto. Similarly to his behavior the day prior, he was pointing a gun at cars and shooting at them. One man was sent to hospital in life-threatening condition as a result of this gunfire. So this just goes to show the catch and release of the criminal justice system that we've seen over the last few years, which again, leader of the opposition Pierre Poilievre has vowed to bring back, restore justice and order on the streets, and keep violent offenders behind bars. This is the kinds of things that are released back onto the streets to reoffend perpetually. And who knows, maybe he's already out on bail once again.
It is unbelievable, Tamara Ugolini, and it's progressive madness. Hug a thug, give him a second chance. How about a 20-second chance? And forget what Tamara and I have to say, and what regular run-of-the-mill Canadians have to say, and what hunters and sport shooters have to say, who are being targeted by the Trudeau government, because evidently they're the problem when it comes to gun crime. The fact remains that earlier this year, all 13 premiers, all 10 provinces and 3 territories signed a letter demanding the federal Liberal government get tougher on bail and parole. What does that say to imagine that, regardless of political affiliation, right? PC, NDP, Liberal, or other, they all are on the same page. When you get that kind of harmonization, you know you've got a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we're seeing it unfold on the streets. This is just another chapter in the book of people who are released out on bail, have a violent past, criminality in their midst, and they just reoffend, and they're allowed to be out and roaming the streets to do so. Doug Ford does condemn, later in this article, justice of the peace and the justice system, the federal justice system, for not keeping these people in jail. And I guess we'll wait and see on the federal level what happens there, because this is getting to be not absolutely ridiculous. And the government, as you've mentioned, targets lawful legal gun owners whose identities are run every day by the RCMP to make sure that they are lawful legal people. And this is the kind of unlawful gun ownership, or I shouldn't say ownership, because they don't even own guns. They're just smuggled across the border and they come into the hands of these criminals. And that is what is responsible for the vast majority of crimes, not anyone who is a legal, lawful gun owner. So again, upside down world, complete ineptitude, failed policies. And it plays out on our streets for innocent, law-abiding citizens, quite literally just driving their cars downtown Toronto.
And Tamara Ugolini, not until a couple of years ago did I realize how bad it is. I was doing a story in the Jane Finch corridor of Toronto, not exactly Beverly Hills, let's put it that way. And I spoke to a Toronto police officer off the record, and I just said, how easy is it to get guns? And he says, you hang around in several of the alleys here, and I can even tell you the going rate at the time, which was $150 an hour if you want to rent it, $500 if you want to buy it outright. And there, Bob's your uncle. That's how flagrant it is. If you're into gunplay, you can get it the same day, either rent it or own it. And look what we have. And Tamara, earlier this month, I believe it was, or late October, there was a gunfight in the West End of Toronto, Sudbury and Queen Street. More than 100 shots were fired. A police cruiser was hit. It was an absolute miracle. Nobody was killed or even injured. And what I'll never forget from that story, the takeaway was one of the gunmen was a guy out on parole with an ankle bracelet on, monitoring his movements. So tell me, whenever the progressives say, well, there are other means of incarceration, no, I kind of like mortar and bricks, and maybe throw away the key while you're at it. But there you go.
All right, we're going to wrap this up, but we have one more Rumble rant before we go. Sweet One Lou gives $5. Thank you. Temporary tax break. Yeah, right. More inflationary spending and the onus on business to administer the chaos. Likely raise prices to compensate the administration nightmare. Donate my $250 to Pierre Poilievre for Prime Minister.
Wouldn't that be sweet revenge? Everybody who is not desperate for money. And sadly, that is a growing concern these days when you
Yeah.
have 2 million people going to food banks, former donors, now recipients. Way to go, blackface. But I mean, talk about the law of unintended consequences. Those Canadians that can afford to part with that $250 gift, send it right to the Conservative Party of Canada. My goodness, Fraulein Freeland and blackface would have a conniption, don't you think?
The bittersweet irony. That would be great. Thanks so much, everyone, for your Rumble rants. And we will see you back same time and place on Monday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern.
Stay safe and stay sane.